y'all, today we're making some copycat toaster strudel. Okay, so for these, I am going to use some pie filling. I'm just using the no sugar added. You can use whatever kind you want. You don't even have to use pie filling if you don't want to. I just thought this would be a super easy way to do this. So you have options. You can use jam in here. You can use fruit, that you can yourself. You can use your own homemade pie filling. Whatever you want to use in these, the possibilities are endless, right? So we're going to do 3 different flavors, not all pie filling, but we are going to do 3 different flavors. So what I like to do, especially with the apples, because they're so big, I like to take a few out and I just put them on my cutting board, and then I'm just going to take a knife and just chop these up into much smaller pieces. Because for a toaster strudel, well, for one thing, usually the filling is just a really smooth, sort of like a jam consistency. But I like the little bit of pieces of fruit, but I don't want gigantic pieces of apples in mine. Now, if you don't mind a really big piece of apple in yours, you can absolutely leave it like that. But this is the way that I like to do it. And if you don't use all of this up, you can freeze it. So that's what I did with what I had left over. I put it in the freezer and I'll have it for next time. So the next flavor that I decided I wanted to do was cherry. So you see, I got some no sugar added cherry pie filling. I know somebody's going to be like, that's unhealthy. Sucralose is terrible for you. Cherries are terrible for, whatever. I know, but that's why I said make it with whatever you want to. I'm just showing y'all what I did and giving you an option, okay? So, I'm just making a mess. But this is going to be, just like I said, what I use. So I'm just going to chop these cherries up. They're a little bit harder to chop because they're so soft and smushy. But they also have blueberry pie filling. And you could use pumpkin. You can use anything. All right, so what you're going to need to do to make these, you're going to need some puff pastry sheets. Now, I'm going to make 9 of these. 1 sheet of puff pastry will make 3, and each box comes with 2 sheets in it. So my extra sheet I ended up putting in the freezer. So you don't want these to be frozen. You want them to be thawed out, but they need to be really cold because that way they're a lot easier to deal with when you're rolling them out. And if you've never worked with puff pastry before, when you unroll it like this, because it's always folded in thirds, well, this particular brand, it's folded in thirds and it's like cracked on the seams. It's kind of hard to see in the camera, but you don't have to necessarily roll this like a dough, or we're not trying to get it thinner necessarily, but I'm trying to kind of seal those cracks is what I'm doing with the rolling pin. The rolling pin. Now, that being said, if you want these to be super thin, you will need to roll the dough out thinner because puff pastry puffs up quite a bit when you bake it. So what I'm doing now is I'm just cutting these into 6 different pieces. So you're going to need a top and a bottom for each one of these, obviously. And if you wanted to make super tiny ones, like if you had like little kids that you just need a little piece of one, you could take each one of these and cut them in half again and just make little tiny toaster strudels if you wanted to do that. But we're going to make the full size ones today. Again, I'm just giving you some ideas, some options. So what you're going to do is take 1 piece of your puff pastry that you cut, one of the sides, and you're going to just put down a tablespoon or 2 of whatever filling that you're using. Now, these are, because it's pie filling, it already has like some cinnamon and all that stuff in there. If you make your own or whatever, you can always add season, or you can add more seasonings to this if you want to. So if you saw my little sheet is a little bit shorter than the other one, we want to make sure that the second piece, that top piece, is really a tiny bit bigger than the bottom piece because you're going to have to put it over the top of your filling. And because it kind of, makes it sit up a little bit, it doesn't quite meet the edges. Do you see what I'm saying? See how it's kind of not quite together at the edges? But that way, if you have one piece a tiny bit bigger, it'll just be easier to put it over the top without it splitting. And then you're just going to go around it with a fork and just seal the edges. And this way, excuse me, y'all, this way when it bakes, it doesn't, all your filling doesn't ooze out the side. So I forgot to say this, but go ahead and get your oven preheating to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And these do look a little bit like Pop-Tarts. Well, they look a lot like Pop-Tarts, but they're not. These are really it is puff pastry. These are toaster strudels. I do have a video on Pop-Tarts. I will try to remember to link that for y'all. If you want to see how to do homemade Pop-Tarts. But I'm going to do the same thing with this one that I did with the first one. I'm just going to roll it out just a little bit, and then I'm going to cut it into 6 pieces and add my cherry pie filling. They also have strawberry pie filling, by the way. But I'm just going to add that on there, and I'm going to do this the same exact way that I did the apple. Just put a little bit down, put the top over, and crimp it together with your fork. Now the last one I'm going to do is I'm using this no-bake cheesecake filling. Now you can use, what I've done in the past is take a block of cream cheese and just add a little bit of sugar and vanilla and stuff like that. You can make this yourself, but for convenience sake, and I didn't realize how big this tub was going to be. I bought it on my like grocery delivery. Did not realize it was going to be a gigantic tub of cheesecake filling, but here we are. So what I was showing just there real quick was that if you wanted to, you could add your pie filling with the cream cheese and make even more flavors, sort of a cherry cheesecake or, you know, whatever. So once you get everything made, put them on your cookie sheet lined with a silicone mat or some parchment paper. And then you're going to put just some little tiny slits in the top of it. You just want it to vent a little bit so it doesn't like bust open somewhere. We want to give somewhere for the steam to escape. So you're just going to do that to all of your little pieces. Just don't go all the way like through the bottom because you don't want, you know, your filling to leak out the bottom if there's a hole. So then I'm just going to do an egg wash. Now for me, I crack an egg in a bowl and then, kind of whip it up with a fork just like you would do, making scrambled eggs. And then I'm just going to brush this on the top. Some people add water. Some people only do egg white. It doesn't matter either way. This is just going to help it get nice and crispy and pretty and brown on the top. So brush your egg wash on, and then you're going to bake these 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 18 to 20 minutes till they're nice and golden brown. While they're baking, we're going to make the glaze for the top. So I am going to take some powdered sugar, and I am using a 1/2 cup measuring cup because that's what fits in the container, but I'm going to use 1 cup of powdered sugar. I know people have gotten confused and mad at me in the past when they say, you said 1 cup, but you put 2 in. So that's why I'm explaining that. I'm using a 1/2 cup measuring cup because we need a total of 1 cup. I use 2. Okay, hopefully that will clear that up. So then I'm going to add in about a teaspoon, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. And then we're going to add some milk. Now we're going to start out with about a tablespoon of milk. And then we're going to whisk this up. And then it does not take much milk, y'all. If you've never done this, it does not take much milk. You're going to add anywhere from 1 to 2 tablespoons and just mix until you get it the consistency that you want. If you want it a little thinner, add a tiny bit more milk. If you want it thicker, don't add as much. This is what our puff pastry looks like when it comes out of the oven. Like I said, I didn't roll these out. Well, maybe I didn't say. I didn't roll them out super thin, so they're quite puffy. If you want them thinner, roll them thinner. And this is a shot of the inside. I forgot to get video of the inside, so I just wanted to show y'all that. And that was the apple one. But I hope that y'all enjoyed this video and that now you'll make your own homemade toaster strudel. All right, that is all that I have for y'all today, and I will catch y'all on the next one. Bye, y'all.